everybody that's around us. I don't know how to say this. There's just so much grandeur of love and light and wonderful entities who just want to embrace us and kiss us all over and get out, for us to get out of our sorrow and get out of our way. And, we're mourning about the political thing. We're mourning about the earth climate and all of those sad, sad situations that we have created.
Welcome to Soul Explorers with your hosts, Gary Langley and Sally Taylor. Welcome to Soul Explorers. Today we have Regina Ochoa, our returning friend and medium. Regina, welcome to the show. It's the first time you've been here solo, so we're happy to have you where we can pick your brain a little bit today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Sally. I'm glad to be back. And hopefully we'll be all enlightened by something new that comes on.
I have no doubt about that at all. So a little bit about you for anybody who hasn't seen you before. Regina is a medium and a channeler, and I would venture to say healer as well. I don't know if you give that nomenclature to yourself, but
Wow.
I know anybody who does this work, it's all in a healing capacity in a lot of different ways. So what I'm hoping you will talk about a little bit is your channeling work and how that fell into your lap, how it is that you came about that.
I fell into my lap because of my dear friend Jean Love. And it wasn't at all expected. I didn't even know what it was, actually. And when we were sitting in a little spiritualist circle that she had created back in Santa Cruz, and this was in the 1980 or so. And so we were just doing that, and with about 8 or 9 people. And she was always the one who's channeling, and she loved it. She was really, really good at it. And I just was always sitting with her because she says, "You be my battery," So because she was new at this, but she was addicted to it. And I just liked being with her in the group, and it was a wonderful way of having a spiritual involvement without having a church. And so nothing wrong with churches, nothing wrong with any of that. I just needed this little extra boost to be feeling closer to God. And so she would channel, and she always brought in a Native American that she called White Cloud. And then, but slowly but surely, I could feel this energy or an energy wanting to come into me. And I kept saying, "No, no, 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 no." And she kept saying, "Regina, something's happening here. Something's coming into you." And I go, "No, no, 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 no. I'm just sitting here being a battery pack." So I was in loads of denial until it just popped in, and just started talking, and it was the same energy that Jean had. So it was like a shared thing, and she could hear it, the words, and I was speaking the words. So, and I don't remember anything. So I was really in a deep state at that time. And afterwards, I would usually just collapse to the ground because of the energy it took. And Jean never did. I often would fall out of my chair or my head into somebody's lap. I mean, it was quite embarrassing, but I was so gone. I had zero control of my body, and it was like somebody pulled out the skeleton and down I went. So it was the weirdest sensation, and it wasn't something I enjoyed or wanted to do. But Jean kept telling me that this is more than what I wanted. It's what I had signed up for. So I kept denying it. Simple as that. And in 1986, literally 3 days after the Challenger explosion happened, I was sitting with Marcel Vogel, and we were playing and with the crystals and his water and doing his uh, Cerulean photography, Curlian, what's that called?
Yeah,
Curlian.
you got it, Curlian.
Yeah, he had a machine and he was playing with it, and we were just goofing off. And then we went into work into a dark room to work with some of the crystals. And in that dark room, the commander of the Challenger came through me without, I mean, I was just sitting there playing, and next thing I knew, I was sitting back in my chair and I was gone, and he was present, pushed right in. And I was like, I was not gone like in the deep meditations. I was really present, but I had all of his memories, his thoughts, his children, his wife, making love, singing music.
Wow. So now when you started channeling, you had already for a long time been doing mental mediumship, correct? Speaking to spirit.
Me alone, nobody else. I didn't share anything that I always have.
Oh, I see. You didn't do it publicly, but
Never, never. It was
but you
not
did
in
it
my,
privately.
I didn't know that what I was doing was already that,
Mhm.
because I could walk up to anybody or somebody and, shake their hands, and I could read their body and find and see all their illnesses immediately, see a heart attack coming, an ulcer happening, a broken arm, I could see all that. It was
Mhm.
as if the body had no skin
Mhm.
or no organs. If I had to see the bones, they just were. And it was a spiritual site, but it was a site that I've always had. People would come to me, my family, all the time when I was little, and ask me to do adjustments on their back. And I don't know what they're talking about. They said, "Oh, just stand on it." And I'd stand, and I knew by my feet. And I'm about 5 when that all started, 5 or 6. I was adjusting backs and knees and hips.
So you have been a healer your whole life.
Well, I don't call it that because
I
I
understand.
just setting, I was just following. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. It's never been me. It's always about what I could feel in my hands. I mean, I can run my hand over body or just above the body, and I can immediately feel the damage or the areas of acupressure. So by the time I was 8 or 9, I was working with an acupuncturist, pressurist, and puncturist, a very well-known doctor. And he and I would play all the time, and his wife, and he'd say, "Okay, show me, I want you to go over this patient or this person, and they would just see me as a little kid and his friend. And so I would just go over and touch certain areas, and he'd say, "Correct, correct, correct." And those were all hot spots on his chiropractic patient and that he was working on. So it became a game. It was a game for me, but I understand now that he was teaching me. So is that mental mediumship? Is that healing? Is that what is it to me? It's just God talking or spirit talking, or it's just allowing me to be able to be open. And I didn't do this publicly with anybody. It was just a way of being.
Getting back to channeling, there's a lot of different forms of channeling. I don't think we talked about this, did we? Since we've been on. Now, have
No, you go ahead. I want to hear it.
you've done deep trance channeling, correct? Where you're pretty much out, like you said, you find yourself in somebody's lap. So
Terrible thing to say.
I found it humorous. I thought it was humorous. But then you can do lighter forms of channeling because a lot of people are still finding out about channeling. So I kind of want to give a descriptive idea to them. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. There are more people doing it than ever before.
Mhm.
People are finding abilities they didn't know they had. There's also conscious channeling, which is you're completely there, but they're talking to you and you're putting it out.
Well, yes, and I don't know if that's actually Well, for me, what happens is they are in me and using my mouth, using my words, using my thought,
And so
using
that's a little deeper
it's
than
deeper. I'm present, I'm aware, but give me 4 or 5 days and I've lost all of those thoughts,
Mhm.
except when they are extreme. Trauma or intense, when they're extreme, they are intense things, the intense natures of some of these events that they are presenting. They will also have removed me into a space so that my mind can be so expanded, it allows information to come through. And allows, part of me gets a little tense in my mind. And so that allows me to open and remove all of that tenseness. So I'm literally in space. Truly,
Mm.
I'm in an outer space. I can see the stars, I can see the planets, I know where I am. I'm absolutely removed, and yet I'm hearing my voice and mouth, and it's someone else speaking completely for it. And
Mm.
so it's pretty weird.
It takes a little getting used to.
Yeah, and what do you call that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we try to label things sometimes where there's a really fuzzy edge, right? Between calling it one thing and calling it something else entirely. For me, I've been dipping my toe in channeling a little bit lately, and it
Mhm,
doesn't feel extremely different from mediumship because it is conscious channeling for me. But I
mhm,
do notice a shift that occurs where when it's just mediumship, I'm a little more present and truly, I call it playing charades because
yeah,
a lot of times
mhm,
it's picture based or it's image based, or I do hear. And so it's kind of putting all of those things together in a way that's meaningful for whoever you're doing the reading for. With channeling, I find that my speech patterns change and
mhm,
my little idiosyncrasies, like saying too much, or whatever the little things are that are common in my speech patterns, disappear,
mhm.
which is unusual. Do you experience anything like that? Do you find yourself having
Yes,
different speech patterns, that sort of thing?
yes, I think so, I rely on those who are watching for
Mhm.
that thing, but, I definitely believe so. The speech patterns are different. The movements are different. I mean, when I channeled for you guys that time, and I had back to back with Carl Sagan and Emmanuel Swedenborg.
Swedenborg.
For me, the energy was so different. Now, whether their voices were that much different, no, it's my voice, but still, their thought patterns were different. And for me, it's just when I rewatch them, I'm experiencing that energy again as well. And I don't know if you feel that, Sally, when you're having these channeling experiences, if you're recording yourself at all or anything, and you rewatch it, there's often you're actually in their energy again. So if it's a really good channel, we hope that our audience or whoever receives that is receiving the energy of the individual more than the words. The energy of the individual is really the crux, I think, to the channeling experience. But I think there's so many different levels with our mediumship work, doing readings and things like that. Those merely we build skills, but a lot of that is a mentalist where we're watching the behavior of an individual. I will not say I don't watch behaviors of individuals. I mean, that's something we all are skilled in. And we respond that way, correct? We respond with a smile if somebody smiles at us. So we respond with, funny faces or oh, sad eyes, like I was talking about that yesterday. We respond because that's our nature. So we definitely are reading individuals. And so that's part of the medium work, but it is charades. There are a lot of symbols. I get a huge red flag across me when I have to stop and I'm not allowed to go that way or go in that door. That person is not allowed to know this information, not yet anyway.
Or not ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Or I'm not ready for it. I'm not supposed to hear it.
So the one thing though in a mediumship reading, and we're speaking of evidential mediumship now,
Mhm.
where they bring actual evidence through. And I've had explicit examples of that in my own life, where things that there is no way the medium could have known because nobody knew but me, and they bring it through. So
Ah,
that's when you could say, there's no chance from my body language they would know this. There's no chance. So, if somebody is looking for a reading,
mhm.
certainly I could make suggestions. You're welcome to email us and the address, and I will answer you. But a good evidential medium is the way you want to go if you want to have a mediumship experience. So,
I agree. I agree. And sometimes the evidence doesn't show for a month or two
yeah,
months and
yeah.
3 months, and all of a sudden it's in your face and you go, oh my gosh, there it is. It's a very interesting way. I used to do a lot of letters back and forth where people would just we're looking for their family members, looking for lost ones, or trying to reconnect, or what's happened. And I'll just received maybe a name, possibly a birth date with it, and that's it. Or sometimes just a photograph, and I just go into trance and do automatic writing and respond back. And it was always it was always wonderful for me to know that I've been able to respond in an accurate format. Sometimes the response isn't what they want to hear, so be careful what you ask for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you're asking for a mediumship to only give you good news, well, there's this who's it, the Princess Bride.
Generally,
Princess,
generally it will be good news, but
generally it is good news, but sometimes it isn't.
yeah, sometimes it isn't. But if you're not meant to know it, you won't.
Regina, you fell into trance work apparently, kind of automatically. Did
Automatically.
you need to go through any process to kind of put that under control in a way that, it wasn't sort of jumping in on you unexpectedly at any given moment? Or what did you do to continue to develop that?
I said no, 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 a lot. And I always have such a belief system that spirit's with me at all times and is doing this for my good.
I just want to add, you do know, of course, the universe doesn't know, no.
That is very true. And so it continued. It continued because the next thing I knew, I was getting phone calls from uh, because of Jean, because of others. Jeannie was channeling the Challenger crew at the Jeannie Love, for those who are unaware of her name, was channeling the Challenger crew on the other side of the United States. And when I told her that Richard Scobie had come through and told me this, and this was literally only 3 days, she had already had 3 full days of channeling work with all of them. And she goes, oh my God, this is wonderful. You got to keep it up. And I said, I don't want to keep it up. She goes, well, too late. I'm going. And then she goes, I'm giving your name to so and so and so and so. And next thing I knew, I was sitting for Bob Shacklet and his wife, Edie Fisher. And Bob was working with, he's a physicist. He was trying to get his computer and his radios to talk. Who's Radjevet?
Konstantin Raudova.
Exactly. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, oh, I'm waiting for it all to talk through and do all of these things. And so we were sitting there and chit chat and visiting and stuff like that. And that's when they said, well, could I try and see if the Challenger, any of the crew would come through? And I says, well, okay, for you guys, I will. And it was just the two of them and just husband and wife. And I was So I just sat quietly, and next thing I knew, Edie's closest friend came through. And that was happening. And then I gave her a full reading. She actually channeled through. I don't remember anything, but Edie wrote it all down, and it's on one of our sites. But then a couple of days later, I'd sat down again, and one of the crew member came through. And then, as well as Richard Feynman came through after he had passed. So there was all of these things happening, and that man knew Richard Feynman. I didn't know who Feynman was even at the time. It just took off in that sense, and I only did the channeling for the Foundation of Mind Being Research. I didn't channel for anybody else because I had my children. I didn't want it out there, and they were little. And my husband had a position in the city, and I didn't want this reflective on him. And I lived in the city of Santa Cruz, and everybody is a medium psychic. And it was Clown City, so I didn't want to be a part of that. And I just didn't want to join the circus. And that's kind of how it felt. So I didn't advertise or do any of that. I worked quietly and under the radar the whole time. And I worked with a chiropractor who would have me come in with a white jacket, coat, and a piece of paper, and we'd do work so I could continue practicing my sight, on the body, on the physical body and issues. And I could continue to hear spirit tell me what happened and why these injuries would occur. So was that a channeling? I don't know. All I know is I'd write all these things down. I'd pass on the notes to the doctor. The doctor would consult with the client and say, did these things happen and things like that. So, and then he could address the different issues that they had not been able to address yet up to that point. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, and that's kind of the fuzzy boundaries between things, right? Is it
Yeah.
mediumship or is it channeling? And does it even matter
No,
necessarily?
it's all mediumship, but humanly, people need to get to a point where they kind of can first look at it as compartmentalized. Okay, this is this, and then you realize ultimately that it's all the same thing, just different modality. And you do, obviously, Regina, several of those. You do automatic writing. Not everybody does that. You do mental mediumship and you channel. So you have several modalities that you work from, which I want to just interject here and urge everyone to go to CosmicVoices.network and read some of the channelings there that both you've done, Jeannie's done, and was it Cindy did?
Cindy Spring, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they're fascinating. So it's CosmicVoices.network. It's not .net, it's .network. So just wanted to put that out there before I forgot, because it's really important for people to get this information.
What are some of the other more challenging aspects of this work, specifically channeling, but any of the work that you do?
Very good question. I think the challenge for me is holding back. Now, when I'm really open and I have information and people who, and the loved ones are hanging out nearby the family member, it's really hard not to say, hey, I can see, or did you know Uncle Joe is nearby? Or do you have a friend named Derek and have you kind of felt chase in your cab, and your son is telling me that you've been texting while driving. What do how do I tell these people? How do you tell these people when that isn't, it's really hard. And so if it's really adamantly important for this individual on the other side who wishes to speak with this family member or person, I ask them for clues. Help me to help them. What can we do to open their mind a little bit and help give me the direction, even the wording or the gestures that I need physically to present myself forward so that I can give the message. So there's a conversation that's going on all the time in my head with loved ones I've never met even. But the essence is it's the, this connectivity of love.
Mhm.
It's so identifiable. I can't imagine what it's going to be like on that side. Doesn't it make you excited?
And I think something that's learned as you progress in your mediumship is discernment of knowing when you can say, hey, your Uncle Joe's standing next to you, or when it's better to keep it quiet. That's true with anything spiritual, I find, because we've all encountered the, I've never seen people do this under other circumstances, but it's a glazed over look when you start talking about things of this nature. It's like either they're not meant to hear it, or they're not ready to hear it, or they just don't want to hear it. But
Mhm.
there is this specific look people can get, and you have to know this is not the time or place to be
Mhm.
discussing.
Well, and that's really true, Gary. And I've learned that a long time ago, that glaze look. So I don't think it ever goes that far anymore. I don't even,
Because you have discernment.
there's the discernment is so strong. But that's when a lot of people, they say they want to do certain things like this or learn how to be a medium, but there's so much skill work that goes behind it. There's so much practice. Sally and Gary, both of you guys know that the practice that goes on behind it, that is not an outward practice. There's nobody to grade you except yourself. And most of the time you do it quietly, keeping your mouth shut. Write things down on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope in a drawer, and then look at it later and see if these things came true or if they were right or wrong. Even looking at a pregnant person, I used to do that all the time. Put a date down on a little card and the birth, the gender, and then put it in an envelope and didn't say anything to the person. Or even, the woman, I can see she's pregnant, but she doesn't know she's pregnant yet. So I would run in and put it on my card, or I'd tell Jerry, hey, guess what? So-and-so's pregnant. To me, it's fun. It's charades with myself. What did I say?
Right.
I get, it's silly, I know. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And knowing when to say something and when not, and whether or not that person would be open or not. I have
Mhm.
had the baby thing pop up once before. I mean, I've always saw my own children before they were born, but I'd never experienced until a couple of years ago somebody else's future grandchild popping in. And she happened to have been ill at the time and had real concerns about her longevity.
Mm.
And I just said, I don't think you're going anywhere. There's a little boy that you're running around in the front yard with, you know?
Good.
And at the time, there was no pregnancy, no grandbaby coming, but that grandbaby's here now. So, but for her, I knew it was okay because she was a friend, and I had some of these conversations with her in the past.
Mhm.
But if that had been the person standing next to me in line at the gas station, no way. And I've had that happen too, you know. But
Uh-huh.
you don't know the person, you don't know what their situation is, whether or not it might upset them, might floor them, might you just can't drop those bombs on people without having a little bit of background information.
For sure.
Yeah.
And now, Gary, you've been a medium, channeler?
No, I have dabbled in channeling, and I took a class on it at one point, and I did channel at least one time, and I only remember the first few words that came out of my mouth, which was something to the effect of, what you consider problems, we see as great opportunities. And then I don't remember I knew I was talking, but I don't remember the rest of it. But apparently for somebody else who was on the same class on the Zoom call, it was very evidential for her.
I just love it. I just love it. And that's the fun part. For me, I have to pull myself in and say, no, you can't be expanded, because I live out in, look at what I live out in. Expansion. It's just full expansion. So if I go into town or do anything with a lot of people, I have to pull myself way in so I don't have all this energy, but I'm altered like 95% of the time.
Sure.
Jerry, my husband, poor Jerry, he, he'll come in and he'll see me and he goes, "Are you there?" And I'll say, "No, no, sorry, hold up, hold up." You know, or he can sense when there's another male in the room or another
Yeah,
female. He can sense
really.
entities. Oh yeah, but he doesn't know it. He just responds. I can he brustles if there's another guy in the room and he can't see it, but there's a Brussels, like, who are you?
Okay.
What are you doing in my house? The very protection of it. It's really fascinating, but poor guy.
Yeah.
I have to tell him, oh, that was so and so.
He signed up when he met you.
He
So
did. Unfortunately, neither one of us knew.
Well, but he's really good example of how these are all natural human capacities.
Yes.
Even if you're not working at the level that you are, Regina, or even that Gary and I might get, almost everybody who has spent some time on Earth has had an experience where they went, wow, how do I explain that to anybody?
Absolutely.
yeah,
We've all had experiences.
I think it's an ability that is atrophied in, our society because of the way our society is geared. It's so geared to outside of ourselves. My happiness lies out there. And if I just own that new fancy car or that new house, I'll finally be happy. It's not the way it works. So the abilities have atrophied because we're so outwardly focused. That's the point I was trying to make. I think they're inherent in everyone.
I think they are too. I think we're born in with it. Some a little bit more than others, just like any other talent. I think
Sure.
with every talent, but how the talent is nourished, or when they find their talent, if it's nourished or encouraged, that's the bottom line. So I've been quite grateful that my husband is willing to hang in there with me. He's done an amazing job, but the two of us are a really big team, and my girls are wonderful. They both have experiences and things, so they've also have their talents. And my younger girl, my my oldest one, when she was little, she could see auras. Oh, look, mom, that person's so and so colored, and blah blah blah. She doesn't see it so much anymore, but she still has intuitive nature is better than just seeing an aura. So she's really amazing, and neither one of them do readings or doing. They're just who they are, and I think that's how we need to be.
I agree. I think it's nice to have the ability developed so that we can use it, utilize it in our own lives. It's a stepping stone to realize you're so much greater than this physical existence. And
Absolutely.
then that colors how you live your life and how you experience events in your life.
I've got a website, reginaochoa.com. It's in bad shape. I just noticed it was really messed, but so don't worry about it. But too much anyway. I did it because I needed a portfolio.
Uh-huh.
People wanted to know a little bit more about me. People always say, what are you selling? Nothing.
No.
Nothing. I'm just selling, just showing, this takes time. This is a part of it. I'm not advertising to work. I don't need it. I've got plenty of work if I want it. I think what's important for me is to get the the big news bulletin that, this is, we're in this physical body, but we're a spiritual being, and we're much greater than the physical body. This is just molecular structure for a little while, and then we're gone. Poof. Everybody that's around us, I don't know how to say this. There's just so much grandeur of love and light and wonderful entities who just want to embrace us and kiss us all over and for us to get out of our sorrow and get out of our way. And, we're mourning about the political thing. We're mourning about the earth climate and all of those sad, sad situations that we have created. It's such a small moment in the lifetime of our spiritual being. It's just
Yeah.
a fraction.
Regina, let me ask you, are you doing readings publicly if people approach you for them?
Nah, well, I give readings all the time, but I'm not doing it on as far as Connect Up, because there's loads of mediums out there who can do it.
Okay. Okay.
Right now, I'm trying to focus on getting all the stories and written up and things like that.
Okay.
And,
That's your focus. Yeah.
yeah, that's my focus. My clients are on the other side. That's how I always feel. They're on the other side, and they take me and put me in places and positions and, on screen where I need to be. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And so, I've had somebody say, well, how do you get paid by them? And their presence, their presence is what I get paid. I mean, just being in their energy, it is, Sally, Gary, it's addicting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's addicting. There's a woman named Frances. Her name is Frances Bond. She's a transpersonal psychologist, and she's on the other side and just would love to talk to you about anything and everything on the other side. She's right here. And
Okay.
so she's got her hand on my shoulder. She's been patient. Frances Vaughn. And you can look her up.
Francis Vaughn, welcome.
Aughn. And she says, this is so much fun. I'm on the friends.
So let me ask Francis a question then, if that's all right.
Mhm,
I'm assuming she's been aware of the conversation that we've been having.
mhm.
And I'm curious, from her perspective, how would she guide people living here in the physical 3D world to open themselves to greater communication with the other side?
I'm going to bring her in here because she speaks better than I do. Good afternoon, Sally. Hi, Gary.
Good afternoon.
Very, very pleased to be here. And thank you for asking me about how you manage what you're going through right now. If you really, really, truly want to communicate with the other side, with your loved ones, what's the first thing you have to do? You have to stop. Stop everything else that you're doing. Set yourself down, put your pencils down, put your phones down, put your books down, put everything down. Put your hands on your lap. Take some nice deep breaths and quiet your mind for a few minutes. Just quiet your mind. And pretty soon, you will get images or mental words or names. And they'll just float through you. And you don't want to deny them. You just let them be present with you. And those mental images, those words, those names, that's your first contact right there. And then you build on that. It may take a few times of connecting, but each and every one of you has someone with you. And most of you have more than someone. You have many, many individuals. There's nothing to be afraid of if you set your intention with receiving love and giving love. If you set intention of receiving an individual or making, I only want to hear from so-and-so, then you are putting limitations on your abilities to receive information, because sometimes the individual cannot speak to you through that limited block. So it has to open you up. You have to be open first to receive. And it can be anything, absolutely anything. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, tell us, Frances, if you would, may I call you Frances?
Oh, I love it.
And I just saw your picture online. I looked you up. What is it like on the plane of existence you're living on across the veil?
That's a very good question. Because I have been working with so many individuals, and I continue to work with so many individuals on your side, I existed in a framework more of the human nature, with cityscapes or parks and buildings, benches, candles, just all the physical things that you have. I kind of work in that area because that's what I have to navigate through. But when I go to get my education, I step away from all of those things that are of our earthly manifestations and visions and visualizations, and just step away from that and move into almost like a classroom setting. And in that classroom setting, there is no, I'm not in pencil paper mode or any of that, or books even. There's an absorption of information. There are individuals of other levels who present to us the same way I'm presenting to you. And there's not the communication that we need using the human voice. It is only done with thought. And the thoughts can convey unlimited symbols, again, ideas, because we don't have the limitations that you do in the physical earth. With the physical earth, you have to live within all the parameters of all the physical manifestations that we've created, whether it be dirt, the sand, a car, wind, sun. But I don't have to exist in that. I only exist in that when I'm coming here close to you. And when I'm stepping further away from my education system, then I can really release the physical body fully. I present myself more in a physical body when I come close to the earth, so that Regina can identify me as well as others who are bringing me forward.
Mm-hmm.
I speak mostly with individuals in the psychological field study. Transpersonal is what I really was my skill set, because I wished for people to understand that being a channeler or being connected with a greater possibilities, a greater reality, that you could get more information for your client or your patient, and you could help them access that place in themselves so that they could do some healing. And that's where I worked with. Although a lot of the transpersonal psychologists now feel that channeling has become more of a gimmick, not recognizing the value in it in itself. So I'm glad that we're bringing this subject up as far as channeling. It is a very precise way of getting to the bottom of a problem that an individual may be having in this earthly plane.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So do you have beautiful scenery where you are? Is it rivers and streams and mountains and flowers? And is that what the outward world looks like to you in your current state of existence?
Well, my state of existence, the current, I love that. The current state of existence, it can be that beautiful flowery thing. It can be that big grand park setting. That I sometimes present with, but it is not the place where I go for the most joyful moments, as you, I think you're wishing for me to express. And when I feel joy, it is connecting to an individual or another entity on my side, where there is a blending of information that is almost electrical. It's stimulating. And on the earth, we'd call that orgasmic, because it really is. It's just beautiful. There is no other way around that for me. I don't need all of the flowers and the beautiful things or the music. I was all about connecting to the heart, connecting to the soul. And I worked hard in the physical of connecting to an individual's heart space and their soul. So my greater reality here is about feeling that at all times. I look in at some of my clients. I look in at my husband, Roger, and I tell him how much I love him. He doesn't feel it. I know that because he's Roger, but I'm presenting it to it, and I see that little spark of love inside him, and I'm giving him hugs. And so I know that fire is burning, and oh, that's such joy. So that's where mine is.
I certainly did not expect a carbon copy version. I think it's probably geared for each of us as to what we need to experience and learn. Would you agree that is the case?
Absolutely. There are individuals here who need to be in the forest, and that is their forest. Their forest is just, or others who just need to be soaring and flying. Others who need to just experience travel for the first time in their lives. They've always wanted to travel, so the first thing they do is travel. But where are they traveling? They're traveling all over the United States, all over the world, and then their next experience is traveling further. So they just keep pushing the boundaries further and further and further into a greater reality. To see each individual experiencing their happiness in an incredible moment of joy and peace at the same time. How can we do that? How can we be ecstatic and have peace at the same time? I don't know. I'm still learning, but we're doing it, and it's exciting. It's it can take your breath away.
Yes.
I don't know how to explain any further for you because there are no words. It is all in here, everything. And I think if I could share that with your audience, stop looking out. Stop looking out there. Your joy, your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your Kwanzaa, your most special moments, all of it right here, right here. It's not up here. It's not part of the rational. It's part of joy. It's all here. And if you can't find it, look deeper. There are pieces of joy, and then you build on that.
At this point, Regina brought through personal messages for both Sally and Gary.
So, Regina, I really want to thank you for joining us today on Soul Explorers. It's always such a joy to spend some time with you, especially when we can get you alone like this and have you all to ourselves. So,
Thank
thanks
you.
for a wonderful afternoon and conversation.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Sally. It was quite fun.
We love it every time. So we'll definitely do it again.
Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed this content, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.